Welcome to the 14th session of the course Consumer Behavior, and here I, Dr. Shravanti Mukherjee from IIT Kharagpur, will be presenting you the theories of learning. So, while starting with the concept of learning and the types of learned behavior, the elements of learning, then we will mainly focus on the behavioral theories of learning, that is the classical, operant and instrumental conditioning, and then we will talk about the cognitive theories of learning. So, first let us see how learning is defined. So, learning may be defined as a changing pattern of responses of the consumers arising out of experience. For example, I take rice in the lunch time. Now, why do I do so? Nobody has told me to do this. I can have roti, I can chapati, I can have idli, I can have dosa, many things. But this is how my culture, my family is being eating. So, during the process of my socialization, when I am growing up, I am being exposed to this kind of behavior only. So, I have developed a habit of having rice in the afternoon. So, therefore, all these things like then again, what kind of rice? Is it the basmati rice or is it a normal rice? So, that all these things actually comes from the way I have developed my habit, the way I have seen my family, my society, and then that way I have developed my, for example, for the apparel sellers. Why do they think that during the Durga Puja I should target more to the Bengal? Why in the north I will target during the Diwali? Why? Because for tradition they have seen that traditionally people will buy new apparels in their own festive seasons, and that is how the child is growing up and is learning that that is the time where all the family members buy new dresses. So, I will also buy a new dress. So, that is how is my behavior based on my experience. So, Domjan and Buchert opine that learning is a process of enduring change in the mechanism of behavior that results from the expertise with the environmental events. So, as per the studies of Hawk and Dayton in 1989 in the contemporary market, he has said the process of learning occurs when the consumer implement their beliefs to interpret a new set of data. Say for example, Freedom 250 is when this mobile was coming up, Freedom 249. So, sorry, I am extremely sorry, it is Freedom 251 when it was coming up. So, that time it was like some people were a little skeptical about the brand, some people thought okay, it is a way to get a very cheaper one, or some people just out of curiosity, as because our set of assumption is like a mobile brand cannot be so cheap. Why? Because for the time when the mobile first time was launched, from that time what we have seen is the processor, the chips, the circuit, all this thing has a definite cost. So, how a mobile can come in 251 rupees? So, that was our skepticism, and that skepticism was just because we have seen mobile phones to be of around minimum of 2000 or close to that. So, similarly, now Reliance Jio, when it came, many people were skeptical about it, but then now they have now it is understood how Reliance Jio can provide in such a lower price. So, then the skepticism is going. So, it is a learned process, just because for Reliance we know that they are sharing Reliance Jio is sharing the infrastructure with Arcom or Reliance Telecom. So, therefore, they may be using their infrastructure, and that is how that has reduced the cost of their internet expenses of Reliance Jio. So, that is how probably they are able to give in a much lower price. So, that when people come to know or understand, then probably their perception will change. Then they see here, according to Hoyluk, Coe and Nipset in 1987, learning is a process of adaptation whereby an individual alters a goal directed behavior in reaction to the changing environmental situations. Now, therefore, consumer learning is a process by which individuals acquire the purchase and consumption knowledge and experience and form a predisposition which they apply to the future directed behavior. Old age people, they do not want, they want a basic phone, they do not want to adopt the technology. Whereas, Idea Cellular is trying to change this process of thinking, because it shows the person is traveling by an auto or by bus, where a youngster is saying that, or he is saying that he does not know how to work in internet, so he is having several kind of problems. So, then therefore, a youth and young person is actually trying to help him out how easy it is to use internet, how easy it is to use to send an email and all this. So, this is like the attempt to change the behavior of the person, and now the person feels that internet using internet is not that tough. So, he had a predisposition that this kind of, because he was not so accustomed with the use of computer on internet. So, he thinks that it was very tough, but that could be changed by giving several kind of reinforcement or some cues. So, hence consumer learning is actually a process, it is not very static. Now, consumer accumulates knowledge and experience through the process of learning throughout his life cycle. The knowledge and experience thus accumulated forms predisposition in customer's mind and thereby shapes the foundation of his future behavior. Now, here we have types of learned behavior. One is the physical behavior. In physical behavior is like when we learn the physical behavior in our day to day life in a variety of situations, as customers we learn the methods of responding to various purchase situations. They take the forms of learning to read closely the fine print of purchase contracts maybe. Customers may also learn certain physical activity through the process of term modeling, in which they mimic the behavior of other individuals such as the actors. You want to have a good physique like Hrithik Roshan. So, that is a kind of physical behavior. For that reason, what kind of dressing pattern will make me look that I am give me a feel that I am having a good physique, or the other people should feel that I am having a good physique with a particular apparel, I may be interested in that. Or good physique to me may be like a physique like Hrithik Roshan, because years back the good good looking person could be like a person like Raj Kapoor. But now, if you see a youngster, he will say, I would look, my ideal self, I want to look like say Hrithik Roshan. That is a definition of beautiful person to me. So, that changes over time. So, that is basically the physical behavior, the way he acts, the way he moves, his physical fitness altogether gives me the idea of beauty. Some could be some symbolic learning things. Now, symbolic learning is also acquired by effective use of symbols. The symbols allows the marketer to communicate with the consumers through vehicles such as labeling, slogan, caption of the brand, and for example, the slogan of great people to fly with. We understand that Pakistan International Airlines is it's about them. So, another way is the problem solving learning. Now, problem solving learning is the one can also engage in problem solving learning by employing the processes of thinking and insight. Thinking involves a mental manipulation of symbols represented in the real world to form various combinations and meanings. For example, the jingle of Titan, it immediately we understand that it is somewhat related to the advertisement of Titan. Sometimes the red waves of Coca-Cola. Then the music associated with the dog of Vodafone. So, all this are Zuzus of Vodafone. So, that we form an association with those, and whenever we see those, we can remember about that it is talking about Vodafone. So, similarly, Cadbury's Dairy Milk, it is associated with the violet color, and the other one is we can see in this slide, that is affective learning. Affective learning is alternatively referred as the environmental learning. Humans learn to value certain elements of their environment and dislike something else. In fact, the consumers learn most of the feelings from the surroundings and the environment. For example, a consumer buys a product when he feels that the product suits him well and is capable of satisfying his needs and wants. A car will satisfy my need to go to office every day. Some people may think, no, a motorcycle will satisfy my need, because it is also portraying to some extent some masculinity, and since it is slick, I can go faster than a car in a densely populated place. So, that is how my that is a kind of affective learning on certain products. Now, we talk about the principal elements of learning. There are actually 4 principal elements of learning. One is the motive, that is the motivation, which we have talked in the motivational theories also. This is a drive, and this is very important for learning. People learn on being driven by some motives or motivational factors. I told about the old person who was being depicted in Idea Cellular. Now, why? Because now many operations are app based, so use of internet and use of a smartphone is actually the call for the day. It is almost a necessity now, because when you are going to new town, you want to call a cab and all, it may be very helpful if you have an app installed in your mobile. So, that is how the old people of this is, they feel the need, that is a drive, but maybe they but also they feel that it is very difficult to learn. So, maybe something simpler way of using internet could be used as the cue to them, that can be acting as the stimuli, which is the next element which we see here. So, if my motive is to become modern, my motive is to use apps, that is my drive, because that is a call for the day, but I do not know how to use it, and I am I am afraid of using those things. So, some easier option has to be given to me, so that I feel the drive to learn internet. So, the same thing has been used in the Idea Cellular recent ad. And the response is how the customer reacts to these motives and cues and how they behave. In Idea Cellular, it has been said that the person is now convinced and he is feeling that it is very easy to use internet in mobile. And then comes the reinforcement. Reinforcement is an important element which increases the probability or tendency of a particular response to occur in future as a result of given set of motives. Now, this reinforcement can be kind of certain behavior, like when I am using this kind of internet in my mobile, maybe my wife and my same age group, even I am a middle aged customer or an old age customer, my friends could feel that or my friends are appreciating that you became modern, you are at par with your with the trend and all. So, that could act as a reinforcement to me. Some offers can be a reinforcement to me. Some some handset offers, price offers could be some kind of reinforcement to me, so that I start liking the brand. Now, we move to the theories of learning. In theories of learning, as I told, the first one we will talk about the classical behavioral theories of learning, and in behavioral theories, our first one is the Pavlovian classical learning theory. In Pavlovian classical learning theory, as you see, there are 4 things to be mentioned. One is the unconditioned stimulus, then this is the unconditioned response, then the conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. Jan Pavlov, he has actually did this study with his dog. Now, in the first day, he gave the dog a piece of meat and the dog started salivating. So, this unconditioned stimulus was the meat and the unconditioned response was the saliva. Now, he started ringing a bell repeatedly kept on giving the dog a meat, and then he started ringing a bell when he is giving the meat to the dog. And after some time, one fine morning, he stopped ringing the bell, he just rang the bell, he did not give the meat to the dog, but the dog started salivating. This is like a conditioned stimulus. The dog has conditioned or linked the bell with the meat. So, he thinks that whenever the bell is rang, I get meat. Okay. So, when the bell is rang, I get meat, you can see here. Now, even just when the bell rang, he was so conditioned with that stimulus that he started salivating, because he thought that he will be getting meat. So, this is how the customers also, they get this kind of adjustment with some brands like Dettol. Dettol is a antiseptic lotion which of the Reckitt and Coleman, and the kind of antiseptic image and the green color is so much associated with Dettol that whatever products come from Dettol, people start thinking that it must be a sanitizing product, it must be an antiseptic product. Okay. So, that if some product comes from Amul, people start thinking it must be a milk product, because Amul for a long time, because it's Anand Milk Union Limited. So, it's for a long time it is associated with the milk manufacturing and milk products manufacturing. So, that is how people have conditioned stimulus with that, if anything is coming from Amul, it is actually a milk product. Okay. So, like if you say about BMW cars, then our understanding is that it is an expensive and elegant car, it is a Bavarian Mystic. So, it took the marketer huge effort to reposition it when they were doing when they launched the product BMW Roadster, because that time they had to give a solid cue or a very strong cue to make the young American customers think that BMW can also be a global product for young, energetic, adventurous, intelligent youth. So, changing that, once you are conditioned with certain stimulus, changing that would be a little difficult, but within that Dettol is continuously launching different kind of products, different variants of the product, like hand sanitizer, it came with soap, then it came with hand wash, now it is coming with hand sanitizer. Without water you can just rub the sanitizer on your hands. So, all these are actually because it is showing that when the child is in the school and something, it has to eat, and that time maybe the hand sanitizer is helping because it carries it. That is how we are conditioned to certain perception about a brand. Then comes the instrumental conditioning. Instrumental conditioning was tested by B. F. Skinner first, and B. F. Skinner, what he has done, he had made a pigeon box and he has fitted some levers in that, and this box is known as Skinner's box. The idea was to keep the birds has to press the lever, and if the bird presses the right lever, it will get grains or food. That is how it is done. So, what happens, the bird, what he has noticed is that the bird kept on randomly pressing the levers, and in that process they press the right lever, and once they understood that, then repetitively when it keeps on doing this kind of trial and error, and finally the bird understands that this is the lever which it has to press to get food, and then it presses that particular lever. Okay. So, this is a kind of conditioning, but this was instrumental conditioning deliberately created. So, many times the marketers, they use these discount coupons, the big bazaar and all, they use weekend discounts. Actually, this is just to induce more sales during the weekends, and even they reduce the price during the week is they want more footfall during the weekends, because that is the basic reason is the weekend time is the free time for the customers, that they do not need to go to office. Or during the festival, some offers are given to the customer. So, similarly, a consumer from his side, he tries several brands and styles of jeans maybe, and finally finds a particular brand and style fits his or her figure and personality the best, and then they continues to buy that. Pouch packs or small sachet packs with other products or test marketing could help the new products particularly to make the customer a trial purchase, and then if they feel that the product is fitting with their requirement, then they can actually settle with that particular brand. So, what we say is, in this process the individual resorts to either an extensive, sometimes if you do not understand, you keep on going for trial and error with different brands, you keep on searching extensive information, and then or maybe you can go by a sudden impulse also and keep on buying different trial packs, and then you can gratify your motives. That is what is the theory of cognitive learning, which is little different from the Skinner's theory, because in Skinner's theory, as we said, that whenever you going by trial and error or pouch packs, when you feel that it is fitting, then you accept that and then you keep on settling to that, but in cognitive theory it is little out of the box. So, in this process which we see here in the cognitive learning theory, here what happens, the individual resorts to either an experiment, if you do not know much, you search information from different sources, or you can obviously go for a sudden impulse also. So, in this process of learning focuses on the mental activity, or this is known as cognitive learning, and this is basically an out of the box theory. We say that person called Wolfgang Kohler, he has tested it with chimpanzee, this particular test. Chimpanzee is put in a cage, and in that cage, in the top, which the chimpanzee even by jumping cannot reach, there a rope has been hanged, and from there some bananas are being hanged, and in the case there is one wooden box somewhere. Now, the chimpanzee first started jumping to get the banana, but he was not getting. Then after some time, it was an out of the box way that the chimpanzee bought that wooden block just and placed it beneath the bananas, and then he has climbed that, and then he has got the banana. So, this is what we are thinking, that it is an out of the box learning theory, which is an individual psychic ability to notice and then form a perception, then develop a knowledge about it. So, in this particular cognitive learning process, he could search an or maybe it may be sudden impulse like the chimpanzee also. So, therefore, this behavior of the animal clearly portray that it did learn to reach its objective by a spontaneous insight into a problem solving process. Now, although the bananas in this experiment do not reinforce any reward, nonetheless motives still play a crucial role for developing such cognitive ability for rational impulse or problem solving techniques. Okay. So, now we talk about various forms of cognitive learning. The first one is the iconic rote learning. Iconic rote learning is this encompasses association between two or more concepts in the absence of conditioning. So, it is like an ad slogan which says that Dove is a moisturizing soap, Johnson is a baby soap which is too mild and gentle for baby skin. This is some kind of iconic rote learning which encompasses association between two or more concepts. In absolute, there is no conditioning as such, but Dove with moisturizer, it is actually these two concepts has been clubbed. And then various forms, another form which we see that the substantial amount of low involvement trial purchase involves iconic rote learning in this case, and numerous repetition of a simple message invariably results in the essence of the message, because people start believing that Johnson & Johnson product means a baby product, it is mild and fit for the babies. So, the iconic rote learning customers may form beliefs about the characteristics or attributes of certain products without being aware of the source of information. Whosoever is saying, but continuously Johnson is coming up with all baby products. So, my assumption is it must be mild and tender and fit for the baby skin. When the need arises, a purchase may be made based on those beliefs only. Another in various forms of cognitive learning, another form which we try to discuss is about vicarious learning. This is another important way in which consumer learning takes place. It is not necessary for consumers to directly experience a reward to learn. Instead, consumer can observe the behavior of others and adjust his own behavior accordingly. Likewise, he may also use imagery to anticipate the outcome of various courses of action. This type of learning is common in both high and low involvement kind of situation. In high involvement situations such as when I am going to buy an iPod or I am going to buy an Apple iPhone. So, this is costly and this reflects one's own personality. The consumer may deliberately observe the style in vogue at that point of time, or that are owned by the role models from different environment, including the advertisement. So, it may be like I am seeing that the most of the role models, many of the people, many of the sportsters, many of the elegant personalities, they are using Apple iPhone 6 or iPhone 7. So, therefore, I think that this is a high involvement product, but I think this is a reflection of a modern trendy as well as an affluent person, accomplished person. So, therefore, I will try to adopt that kind of behavior if I want to portray myself like that. Then comes the reasoning part. This process represents the most complex form of cognitive learning. In reasoning, an individual engages in creative thinking to restructure and recombine existing information as well as new information to form new association and concepts. We all know what is the use of edible oil, nothing to know about it, but then when Saffola says that it is a cholesterol free oil, now Vivo has come and Vivo is saying that it is it can fight the diabetes, it is good for diabetic patients. So, if that is being said, so I know about edible oil, but how edible oil can fight diabetes, that I do not know. So, therefore, I search extensive information about it, and then it is not my impulse choice, but it is an I search information how it is done, I see the ingredients of the product, and then accordingly I take a conscious decision about it. Now, in that similar way, anti-dandruff shampoo like Clinic Plus, then Head and Shoulders, that gets that kind of association like anti-dandruff shampoo, whereas Pantene Pro V, it is like a specific strong long hair kind of needs, where Sunsilk is coming up with 8 variants for 8 different kind of needs. So, now we talk about ingest. So, why do we learn why do we learn learning? Okay. So, what is the marketing implication of that? To be precise, consumer learning is a process by which individuals acquire knowledge and experience from different sources, that is understood, but that they apply in their future behavior, and marketers are concerned with from what sources the customers are learning. Is it from their children? Like when we look at the bottom of the pyramid, many times for the grown up children, those who are actually going to school or bringing information from there, parents are getting information from them. Lifebuoy in their Swasth Chetana campaign has used this. They have first promoted the product to the school children, not by television commercial. They have sent some people to the schools, and there the people have demonstrated with a microscope, talcum powder and just a towel, and by that they have shown that how much germ was there before washing the hand with Lifebuoy and after washing hands with Lifebuoy. And this has actually the children started believing about this, and then the children brought that information to their houses, and children also started they themselves started being the ambassadors of the brand. So, this is how they understand. This is how we understand that how these rural customers probably learn. So, then we can promote in that way. What are the barriers in the learning process? In the BOP market, for example, when we say that their main barrier is their semi-literacy or illiteracy, maybe they cannot read and write, they are not properly informed about the product always. So, how certain cues such as brand, corporate names, packaging, advertising meet the customer's expectation? How customers process the information? Okay. Sometimes the product which is the clone product which is written just Win instead of Vim bar, but customers in the BOP at the bottom of the pyramid because of their little bit of restriction and little bit of their I won't say incapability, but that is their lack of literacy about the brand. Maybe they are because they only go by the pictorial cues because they cannot read. So, that is why they go by the pictorial cue, and by pictorial cue Vim and Win looks very similar. So, they get actually ditched by this kind of product. So, that is how I need to know how they process the information. Can they read the full package? Can they read all the information? If not, then how should I communicate my message to them? So, that is what. Then is the elements of positive and negative reinforcement. What can make me satisfied and what can be negative reinforcement? Maybe the promotion which is coming in within my very favorite soap, I may form a negative opinion about it, because I want to see the soap that time. I do not want to see the advertisement that time. So, my immediate behavior will be switching the channels. I will not notice that ad at all, or I will be little disgusted with that. So, I should know what is positive and what is negative reinforcement to learn. How to develop associations among different offerings with similar brand, which is known as brand extension. How consumers across different segments decide to buy new products or dispose the old ones. So, all this understanding actually are the marketing implications, and therefore, learning can facilitate a marketer to build demand for a product by associating with strong drives using different motivational cues, if I know, which provides a positive reinforcement. So, in general, marketers try to make a typical consumer learn about their brand names, specific features, spectrum of their benefits. Consumer learning is continuously evolving, however, and it is changing as a result of newly acquired knowledge due to extensive media exposure. People are coming to know about various brands, what is the specific benefit of this brand. They know what is Dove about, what is Lifebuoy about. So, that is how the things are getting a little easier. So, to conclude, it may be said that it is really difficult to generalize a set of rules that could be universally applicable to explain today's consumer learning process, but of course, the marketer has to be observant. They should go for a proper market research to understand what can initiate the learning process, what can make the customers relearn about what they have learned earlier, what can change their predispositions, and of course, what can motivate them to in favor of their brands. So, this is in short the learning theories, and thank you. We will see you in the next session.